Hi friends, welcome to my new episode. Today we are discussing about goalkeeping and I'm so excited to have a special guest here. Coach Fahim here is with me. He is a fantastic goalkeeping coach and also very good tactical coach. Welcome to my show.
Thank you very much.
Before we start, can you tell us more about yourself and your journey?
Well, I started playing football when I was about 7 years old in my native country, Tanzania. Before I became a goalkeeper, I was an outfield player, played in defense for school and, on the streets, and then eventually became a goalkeeper. And when I was about 15, 16, I played in the 3rd division in Tanzania for my local club, and then moved to New Zealand, where I went for college. And I managed to play for a couple clubs over there, from the 2nd division. Then I got signed in the 1st division, and then eventually for Auckland City and Central United, which is like the top club in New Zealand in the semi-professional league. And then moved out here when I was about 21. And right at that moment when I moved here.
Here you mean Oman?
Yes, in Oman, they had the new rule where, the goalkeeping position was sort of Omanized, and I could not sign for any club. And then I sort of transitioned to become a goalkeeping coach, and, eventually I became a outfield coach as well. Yeah.
Great experience. Okay, let's dive to some questions. I hope you enjoyed this show. Why goalkeeping coach is so important? And what role does a coach play in this department?
Well, I think I might be biased a little bit with the goalkeeping part. I think goalkeeper. I think a goalkeeper is basically the most important role in a football game, basically in a team. I think we try to sort of overlook them because they don't score goals. But I think a strong goalkeeper is the building, foundation for a team. And when you have a strong goalkeeper, the rest sort of flows. And I think, it's the most important position. And again, it's also the hardest to train. It requires a lot of work. From a coach and also from, the player. You need to be really determined, to become a goalkeeper. You need, high levels of, mental strength because, any other player on a football pitch can make a mistake, and that mistake can be recovered by some other player next to them. But as a goalkeeper, you make an error and that can potentially cost your team. So, yeah, it's a mix of that. And what role does a goalkeeper coach play? I think a goalkeeper coach sorts of it depends on the level again. Is it with men's football? Is it academy? Is it youth football? But in a general sense, a goalkeeping coach would help, with the whole build-up of a team. And, with modern football, where teams play from the back, I think, it's an important role. And yeah. Which
skills and attributes you think make a good coach?
A good coach in general, I think, obviously, knowledge of the game. I think you can't be a great coach if you lack knowledge.
What do you mean by knowledge of the game?
You have to understand the game, how the game works.
Tactical coach.
Well, tactically, you just have to feel the game.
You mean it's not just technically, it's you need to have some tactical idea about the game.
Yes, absolutely. And what goes into actually, developing a player or developing a squad, what it takes, I mean, you could be a great footballer, and where you're technically outstanding. But when it comes to coaching, it's totally different. You could do it, but, the person you're coaching might not be able to do it.
Correct.
So you have to know the know-how of how you can help that person. And so in a general sense, it's understanding, what goes into a game and, what goes into preparing a player or a team. But at the same time, I think we try to overlook, the human side of things. I think to be a great coach, you need to sort of build connections with the team and the players. There has to be a relationship between the two. And so people skills, you have to understand people, you have to understand what every player sort of requires, on a personal level, and how you speak to people. So you can't just be a coach and take everyone the same. It's impossible. You will not get the same result because every individual is different.
Yeah.
So I think you need people skills, you need to understand the game, and at the same time you need to have a lot of passion, because becoming a coach is so difficult. You need endurance, to last as a football coach, and become a good football coach. You need to be able to sustain years and years of learning and failure, and so all that I think is what makes a great coach.
I love these tips. Tell us, Coach Fahim, which criteria do you consider when you design your training sessions?
Well, again, it will depend on the level of the players, the age, at the same time, the amount of time I have. So, days are different. There are times when you're working with elite goalkeepers, the sessions have to be, how do you say it? They have to be, a little bit upbeat, and at the same time you can...
More intensive.
Yes, more intensive, and you can also include the tactical aspect of a game. So, you create like small-sided games with the goalkeepers. But then when you're dealing with, let's say, a beginner, it's totally different. You have to make sure they're engaged, and it's not just full on, the technical part, this is how you dive, this is how... Otherwise they get bored, because it's not really fun, where you just dive, and you're not engaged, and so yeah, it depends really. It depends with the level, time, and also even space, and how many players are available for me. Because when I work with elite goalkeepers, then if I have the whole team to my disposal, so then I can, let's say, include the strikers, but when it's one-to-one, it's totally different. So
having fun, you mentioned having fun.
Yeah.
How much this fun you incorporate in your training session? Is it too much, or is it under your control, or whatever? Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, see, for me, what I consider fun is could potentially mean something else to someone else. I feel like when I'm holding a session, I got phases where, when we come in, warm up, let's say have a little game, for like 2-3 minutes, just to get everyone going and everyone feeling welcome. And then, let's say, start working. And then after, like, let's say, whatever period, 15-20 minutes, have a little chat with the players, have a cool down where we, we speak about different things, So that also for me is sort of like fun. And then go again, because it's impossible to hold a session and go a whole hour where it's just intense. You lose the player.
I have a question here. Can it be part of the nature of the exercise?
Yes, absolutely. And I've seen a lot of coaches, yourself included, where you would have these drills where you incorporate a little bit of fun in them, where they learn at the same time, they're enjoying it. And it's important, for anyone to learn something. I think it has to be enjoyable for them, because if it's forceful, if they're forced into it, they get bored, and then they don't want to participate. Exactly. And like working with, let's say, a 6 or 7-year-old goalkeeper, you need to make sure they're smiling, they're laughing every now and then. Otherwise, it's just too much.
Yeah, that's very important. Is there any specific tools coaches can use to optimize their training sessions?
Well, I guess with modern football, introduction of cameras on a football pitch, and stat vests that they have these days, to measure how much work rate a player is given. It's a bit difficult with the goalkeeper because we're not doing a lot of running. It's more, of the technical stuff. But again, yeah, cameras, I would say. And then
What about this shooting machine?
I'm not a big fan of that.
Yeah,
because
these days I see it shoots like curve.
So
that's very interesting.
Yes, it's become, I don't know how to say it. It's sort of evolved, and now you can sort of have all these different settings, but it loses the human feel with that. So if, for example, you want to do a curveball, right, and you put a couple balls, so the goalkeeper already understands that this ball will always curve in a certain way.
Where is it going?
Yeah, then it loses the whole feel.
There's no trick in it.
Yes. Whereby, if I'm coaching the player, and let's say, of course, they know that I'm going to be shooting on the right top corner, there are moments where I'll make mistake with my serving. So then that will make them react in a different way. So even though it's sort of like, they know what's happening, but at the same time, there's an element of, of something not going the same way. And then that's also learning. So machines, for me, not really. I'll take the rebounders. I think these rebounders are good.
That is also very useful.
And then they have these nets on the ground these days, where the ball can deflect. So we've got all these tools. Even I tend to use them, but not so much. I think I'm more old school. I like to go the conventional way of goalkeeping, and I think that's the best way to gain results. But again, the tools can be used to create that element of fun. Because it's always nice to, for the boys to use this, and they can always take videos and post, and so it looks nice on camera, but I don't think there's any proper output from it. And even when you see it at top level football, with the big clubs, in Europe, they don't really use this. It's pretty much conventional.
Sometimes.
Yeah, hardly. I think they do it for the videos, but when they're actually training, I think it's just the normal way, the basics.
Fabulous. I know you are following many leagues and national teams as well to get some tactical idea. As I mentioned, you are very good, also tactical coach. You're coaching, you can make a role as a head coach. Can you tell us how coaches can incorporate this tactical aspect into their drills or the sessions when they watch a game or something, how they can bring all those tactical aspects and incorporate into their sessions?
Well, again, each coach to his own liking of football style. So, for example, I tend to watch a lot of the Premier League because that's the most followed league. But I keep in touch with La Liga and the Bundesliga and also Serie A. I prefer more of the, of La Liga football. I prefer that style of football.
Why?
More passing, because I find it to be more entertaining. It looks easy on the eye, but very difficult to conduct on the field.
Premier League is very quick.
Yes.
It's just many times you see it just goes end to end and then it's too fast.
Exactly. And for me, there's an element of it that I like, but a lot of times I don't appreciate the technical input with that kind of football. That end to end, takes two passes to get to it. I don't see the art. I fell in love with football because of the art. So, again, what do I get from these different leagues and these different teams? Teams are changing. The leagues are different now. Like back in the days, early 90s, you could see, the English football was pretty much one way. Even Arsenal was one way. Then comes, Arsene Wenger into the league, and he changed the league. Arsenal started playing football, where it was known in Europe to be playing good football.
And you're supporting Arsenal for our audience.
Yes, absolutely. And so that was a change there. And, at that very moment, they didn't think that would be successful, but it has. And then fast forward a few years later, comes Pep Guardiola. that has introduced his style
He
of
changed
football,
Premier
you know,
League as well.
and he's changed it completely. Now you watch teams like Burnley, you know, and you can see that Burnley start playing football. They don't play long football anymore. And again, that's to do with Vincent Kompany, who was, you know, Pep Guardiola's captain at Man City. And then you have people like De Zerbi, you know, Mikel Arteta at Arsenal. You know, teams are starting to play, so it's changing. The same with the Bundesliga. Bundesliga was known to be physical back in the days. Now it's more technical than it was. You know, so I think with all the leagues, I personally do pick certain things out of these teams. For example, I'm a big fan of Diego Simeone. Not necessarily that he plays great football. You know, he plays something a lot of people call as negative football, you know, where he likes to sit deep and just wait for you on the counter. So when I watch these and I watch how Atletico Madrid are drilled, you know, it gives me ideas on how to create sessions. And I've worked on sessions where, you know, I've incorporated the tactical aspect of Atletico to my sessions, and it has actually worked. So again, so it's that, and then there's the Peps, and you know, it depends what approach you're sort of.
Does it help if we show some of this video of the top leagues to our players? Does it work or not?
I think
for age groups.
I think it does. Let's say when I should say for like under 16s football, I think it works. I think when they're younger, it's a bit difficult. Because I think most players, when they watch football, they don't really see the tactical aspect of the game. They don't look at the runs. You know, I have this conversation with my players, and they always say to me, "Coach, did you see how well so and so did?" And in my mind, because I look at the game in a different way, you know, and I'm thinking he wasn't that great. Yes, he might have scored a couple goals, but he wasn't anything. So they don't see what these players are actually doing on a football pitch. So I think when they're younger, it's difficult. But when they get older, yes, you know. But that's on a general sense for a team. But for a goalkeeper, I think yes, you know, you can sort of show stuff. Yeah, because then you can sort of show the footwork, you can sort of show the positioning, and then they get an idea. I think it's easier to introduce videos at an early age for goalkeepers than it is for a team, because a lot gets lost in translation, I feel.
Excellent. Here is a scenario. You go to a training session, to a pitch. You see 5 or 6 goalies are there in 2 or 3 different age groups. How you can ensure the session is inclusive for all players?
Yeah, well, that's a good question, because I end up having these kind of problems most of the times, because you have new players trying to join in, players coming in for trials at the academy. So I've been doing it for years, you know, and and what I've learned over the years is that you cannot sort of have different groups. Even when the ages are different, you cannot segregate them and say, okay, you two, you're 16, you work alone. And you guys are under 12s, you work alone. And then you sort of move between them. I think it doesn't work, because one, you know, they lose focus, you know, because the time you're dealing with one age group, the other age group is sort of out of it.
And sometimes you see, I saw actually in your training session, some players don't show enough desire. Some are very serious.
Yes.
So how you manage this?
Well, again, like I say, you need endurance as a coach. You know, you need to understand the know-how and, you know, have the ability to, you know, communicate to them, you know, in a way where you're sort of pushing them, but at the same time it's not harsh. But it is difficult, and especially goalkeeping, you know. So I think when you incorporate all of them in a session, so for example, if I have the older ones, and then I'll have the older ones serving. Let's say I'll be at one angle and 2 other older ones will be serving at a different angle. So by them serving, they're also practicing.
So you try to get involved all.
Yes. And then, let's say have a young one, let's say behind the goal. So whatever that goes behind the goal, you're supposed to catch it. So then now they're also involved.
Good one.
So it's not directly coaching them, but you're keeping them entertained.
Yeah, they're engaged.
You know what I mean? So that way. And that way you sort of have a whole view of what's going on in a session. So yeah, I think it's difficult in the beginning, but eventually you just know how to do it, and it's basic, but it's important that they are all included, yes, in the session.
Can we pinpoint who is going to become a top-notch or even mediocre player in future?
In the goalkeeping aspect?
Yes.
Yes, I've got a goalkeeper in the academy at the moment who's just turned 13 this year, and I've been playing him with the under-17s since last year. So a 12-year-old boy, young, and showing a lot of desire, a lot to learn, but just he's always ready. He comes in, he works hard, he's so focused, loves the game, and and so many times I'll take him to tournaments, and other coaches will be asking me how old they are, and I say they're 12 or now 13 and playing under 17s football. So I think maybe it's early to call it because they can lose the passion, but I think what I'm feeling with him is what I felt with one of the boys that I had previously that I had coached at another academy, and he went, right now he's signed to a Dutch team, in Utrecht, and basically he's in the top division in Holland. Excellent. And recently he's also been called in the under-18 national side for Holland. So, but I had this feeling when I was coaching him, I could just see the desire and how much they wanted to become, and I'm seeing this in this boy, and I don't know if I can say his name, Tarek. He's showing me fantastic work, and all I can do is...
He's 12.
He's 13 now.
13. So we hope to see him in 7 years in professional level.
Well, I'll say 3 more years. Why not? Because the boy that is in Holland is 16. Perfect. Well, he's just turned 17 now. But yeah, he signed his first professional deal at 16. So yeah, so I give it another 3 years, and hopefully we'll see Tarek somewhere in Europe.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Coach Fahim, we all know how important is the communication between the coach and his or her players. What can you say about that, and what's the best approach to wrap up the session?
Well, again, it's about style. What type of person you are, and how you sort of link with your players, what type of relationship you have with your players. Personally, I am more connected to my players. Like I would be speaking to them even, off the pitch. Let's say I'll see them in the mall and I'll just hang out with them and speak to them. So you build a strong relationship, and then they get to know who you are as a person. Okay, so they know basically when it's work time and when it's fun time, and when I'm speaking something, what I'm trying to say. So for example, I could be shouting at one of, let's say, my captain, right? I could be screaming at him to do something, whereabout I could not do the same with, let's say, one of my strikers, because these two are two different individuals.
It's different, person by person.
Yes, so they take things differently. And my captain will take it because he understands coach is only saying whatever he's saying just because I'm doing something wrong. In football, it's not anything personal. Whereabout if I say that to the striker, maybe he's thinking he's having a go at me. So it's important to understand each individual and build a relationship with the individual, and then sort of have a standard way of speaking with the team in a whole. So they have to understand when it's motivational speech, or when it's I'm upset type of speech, or when this is not good enough. So you have to build that. You cannot just show up, one day you speak this way and the next day you speak in a different way. So yeah, and I think when you're wrapping up a session, you always have to end it on a high, where you have to end it whereby everyone goes home not feeling dejected and feeling, oh, maybe I should just quit football. You can't have a go at someone when you're wrapping up a session.
So can we say coaches need to have some, I would say, social or psychological idea to get connected to their players?
Absolutely. And if you don't have that, I don't think you become successful. And I think that's what, goes with top managers in the world today. I think it's become more of that than anything, and if you don't have that, it's impossible. No one's going to run for you. We've seen managers that were great in the past, but they didn't have, the same feel with the new players that they kept having over the years, and more times, it's a big fallout with the players. And once the players, cannot relate to you, I'm sorry, you'll be done, because they won't do it. They will know what to do, but they won't do it because they cannot relate to you. And then they're thinking, why should we? And then for us, it's so quick to lose your job, unfortunately.
I agree. I believe so. Before we end, I would like to ask you 3 questions and give you one challenge. Are you up for that?
Okay, let's see.
Question 1. Which topic do you enjoy working on, and which one you find more challenging for yourself?
Okay, so I start with the
first question.
First one. So the first one, which topic I like? I think I like to work on possession, where about when I'm coaching, how to maintain possession, I try to sort of also set the team up at the same time, and then sort of rotate the players in different positions, because I think it's important in modern football exactly that a player must understand the game, not just the position.
And the second part, which topic you find more challenging for yourself?
More challenging
to teach players. Goalkeepers.
Goalkeepers. I think it's more of the one-on-ones, where bravery has to take part. It's so difficult, like you can sort of train this, for such a long time, but when it comes to an actual game, it's totally different. Because at that very moment, if you're practicing one-on-ones where a goalkeeper has to sort of close down a striker and throw themselves towards the ball or towards the,
without foul, which is very important.
But again, where you're committing yourself, let's say to the shoe, you're diving into the leg of a striker. See, when it's training, it's easier to be done because I'm not gonna hurt you. That the moment you come in, I'm gonna jump. But in a real game, anything can happen. So what I've noticed is that once they're in a real situation, in a real game, they act differently. So no matter how much you train them, they act differently. And I think this is one part where I don't try to do so much, where where goalkeepers have to sort of dive into the ball. I like that to sort of happen with the session, with the whole team, and not really me train it, because it's so difficult. You could train it all you want, but in the real scenario, the goalkeeper reacts totally different. So I find that one to be very challenging.
Great.
And maybe a little bit of throws as well, because throws, there's no right or wrong way to throw footballs. There are goalkeepers that can do the overhand better than a roll, and there are some that can do a roll better than the overhead. You know, each to his own. You know, so and with modern football, the throw is not really important anymore. You know, you don't really see goalkeepers do the throw these days because they're all stuck.
Goalkeeper, Bayram.
Yeah, I guess yes. I guess only him. Yeah, but he's fantastic at that. Now, him, I don't think a goalkeeper coach coached him, taught him that.
No.
That's natural ability to be able to throw that distance. You know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So throws, I think I don't do much throws because modern footballers, modern goalkeepers play with their feet. You know, and yeah, you don't need to throw the ball anymore. You know, you just ping it.
Correct. Perfect. Yeah. The second question: who is the goalkeeping coach you admire and why?
I don't know if to say to admire, but I think one that has really caught my eye is the current, Arsenal goalkeeping coach, Iñaki Caña. So he's a Spanish guy from Barcelona, and Arsenal got him from Brentford. So this guy, I think I have to sort of look into what he does, because when Arsenal signed Aaron Ramsdale last season, I wasn't really convinced, because I had seen Ramsdale at Bournemouth for years, and he wasn't looking like a top goalkeeper for me personally. Mm-hmm. And he's come into Arsenal and he's become an elite goalkeeper.
Yeah, improved a lot.
Yeah, he's one of the best, And then, now with Arsenal signing David Raya from Brentford, again, Caña had worked with Raya at Brentford before he's moved to Arsenal. So Arsenal now have two top goalkeepers at their disposal, all being trained by the same guy.
This is another actually subject we can talk about. How a goalkeeper coach can manage the two good goalkeepers?
It's hard. It's difficult, especially in this scenario like what Arsenal are going through at the moment. With the Aaron Ramsdale and David Raya scenario. It's so difficult because, again, like now we see Ramsdale being dropped from the team.
Yeah.
But if you ask me personally, there was no reason for Ramsdale to be dropped, because he didn't commit any serious error, to result to this. Now, how does he then keep both of them motivated when one is dropped and then one is playing and one is playing out of the blue? It's so difficult, and I think Arsenal are trying to introduce, Arteta is trying to introduce something new to football, and I don't see it working. I really don't, because you must have an element of a number one and a number two in a football club. It has to be that way. Because a goalkeeper is a sensitive position. A goalkeeper wants to feel needed. A goalkeeper wants to feel as the important guy, So having a goalkeeper play and thinking one mistake will cost me like a chance to play in the next game. No, I think it's very weird scenario, and I don't think it will work out great with Arsenal. So. I don't know. It's difficult. At academy level, yes, you'd love to work with all top goalkeepers because they're all young. They all get minutes. But at the top level, it's difficult.
It's difficult to manage.
Yeah.
The last question. What are the first ingredients going to a successful coaching journey?
I'm not sure I'll know the right ingredients to that, because I'm trying to go up the ladder myself. But what I'm learning throughout the years, now this is like my 9th year coaching. Yeah, so endurance.
For the slideshow.
Endurance, I'd say. Passion. And energy. Because you need a lot of energy to become a coach, especially if you want to be successful. Because you cannot lack energy and expect to become a good coach. No, you have to be involved. So every session you've got to be involved. It has to be, personally, I think how I motivate my players and how I get them going is because I try to, bring that energy. They feel me, like what I'm trying to do in a session, and that sort of, trickles down to them. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, but key things, I would say sustained motivation, passion, and energy.
Great. And are you ready for challenge?
Yeah, absolutely. Go.
You have got 30 seconds to explain a session idea.
Yeah, sure.
Okay?
Yeah.
You can use the board as you wish.
Okay.
Your time starts from now.
All right, so you've got the main goal here. You've got a small goal here and a small goal here. All right, you've got a server right here and a server right here and a server in the middle. And then you have a goalkeeper over here receiving the ball from the server, taking a touch, serving it into the net, and vice versa. So they will go in here, get from the server, so pretending this is a fullback, and serving it in the net. So they work on their distribution, and eventually you can then go up, and then from here.
Time finished.
Oh, that was
Okay,
quick.
continue, no problem.
Yeah. So that will be the distribution part, and then you can also use the server, and the goalkeeper goes for a high ball in here, then reposition themselves in here, and this server here will shoot a low ball on either side. They make that save, and then now they reposition again, and this server here will go for a big shot here, where they go for a big dive.
Nice exercise.
Yeah,
I
so-
got it.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for the designing this nice drill. Okay, before we wrap up the session, I want to ask for everyone tuning in to this show who wants to know more about keeping or even tactical idea, how can they get connected to you or reach you out?
I guess, through my Instagram page, official Fahim Hamza. and
Official Fahim Hamza.
Yeah, on Instagram. I think that's the easiest way, perhaps. Yeah.
Sure. Thanks for the time. I really enjoyed and I hope see you again.
Thank you
in
very
my
much.
episodes.
It's been a pleasure.
Thanks guys for watching us. I'm Sina Badri and until the next episode, be safe.